Welcome home, masters and princesses, to another episode of Made News Network. I am your host, S.J. Nix, and I'm here with Peter Lim and Chester from Band-Maid Fans Café. And we are three of the four admins from Band-Maid Fans Café, and we're going to have a little chat today about the history of the band, the history of Band-Maid Fans Café, some of the cool experiences we've had with the bands, and just chat a little bit about us. So with that, Peter, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hello everybody. It's been a pretty busy week with just a lot of different announcements and stuff going on, birthdays and whatnot. But it's always nice. This is a first for us because it's usually either myself or it's just SJ or the two of us. But today we have a very special guest, Chester Payne, Major
Hello.
Payne. Um,
Killing is my business, ladies. I don't know if you remember the movie or not.
but yeah, so Chester has been around the longest, if not by a few days, right, Scott? He beat you by a little bit?
Just by a few days, but he's been an
Yeah.
admin quite a bit longer than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's not the most vocal on Band-Maid Fans Cafe, but he's definitely the foundation by which we are here today, I would say. He's definitely a huge part of it. So thanks for joining us, Chester.
No problem.
Yes.
So we were going to talk about the history of Band-Maid Fans Cafe today. So it goes back to 2015. I first discovered the band in or about May. I was getting ready to go to my first trip to California to see Scandal, and the Thrill popped up on the recommended videos on YouTube. And I remember being really impressed with it, so much so that when I was standing in line at the, I think it was the Hard Rock Cafe on Sunset Strip, that I was showing the video on my phone to everybody in line for the Scandal show. And a few months later was when Real Existence came out. And I remember that there was somebody making a comment in the comment section to that video that somebody needs to make a Facebook group or something along those lines. And they were saying that they couldn't find any on Facebook. And within a couple weeks of that, I got an invitation to Band-Maid Fans USA, which was the name of the group at that point. So I'm thinking that would be, I'd gone back and looked, but I can't remember the specific dates anymore, but I think it was around September of 2015 is
August.
when I joined. It was August. Okay, I think I knew it was like the end of summer, but I couldn't remember exactly when. And I remember when we joined, we had less than 50 members. I think I might have been somewhere in the 20s. The person who originally started the group, we had him ensconced in our rules for a long time as kind of a joke. Cygnus Zone was his screen name, but within less than a year, he left Facebook entirely. And the group was growing, not rapidly, but fairly significantly. For the longest time, we were the second largest group behind Band-Maid Fans worldwide. And after Cygnus left, there was another admin whose name is escaping me right now, who had been the longest tenured admin. And he decided to change the name to Band-Maid Fans Cafe in an effort to be more inclusive to an international audience. So to not make people who are not fans from the United States, didn't want to make them feel unwelcome. So he changed the name to make it more something that would encourage international non-USA based fans to join. Within about a year of that, like around 2017, that admin left and he just became very inactive on Facebook. He's still around. I still see him every now and again, but very, very, very rarely. So it was just me running the group for a while, and we got up
That's
to
so
around
sad.
Yeah, it is kind of sad, because I'm not a super active social media person. I don't post a lot. I'm pretty, private and reserved. And when we got to around 3,000 members, I was starting to be a little bit concerned about the volume of material that was being submitted and whether I was capable of monitoring everything and keeping it from becoming a kind of a crap show. I had met Scott at the J-Pop Summit in 2017. And was it 2018 or 2019 that I asked you and Freddie to come on as admins?
So you had asked me probably not too long after J-Pop Summit.
Yeah, so it was probably the beginning of 2018 then.
Yeah, because then when we went to Lodge Room was
Yeah.
when I had suggested Freddie, and then
Right.
Freddie had came on after that.
Right. So I felt a lot more comfortable when we had 3 people. We didn't have a lot of problems. We've been pretty lucky that the number of serious issues we've had with the group has been pretty small. But then, was it 2020, Peter, or was it 2019
that I came in?
Yeah.
Well, I joined the page Fans Café, I think late 2018.
18, okay. Well,
And yeah, so I joined and I just observed, and then I started posting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
and there was
And
like,
so
we have BP and AP with the group. And for those of you who've been around a while, know that Peter is a very active social media user, very creative with his well, at least in the Band-Maid groups he is. And he came along, and you could tell, as the admins, we could tell that Peter was very passionate about the band and was doing some great Photoshop work and really interesting stuff. And the group as a whole was responding very positively to it. And it was only a few months after Peter started making those great posts that I started bouncing around between Freddie and Scott about asking Peter to be an admin as well. There was a couple of reasons for it. One was, Peter's obvious passion supporting the band, but all the admins that we had were all based in the United States in one time zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been kicking around for a while trying to get admins that were on other time zones, like in Asia, maybe Eastern Europe, so that we could have more of a 24-hour ability to cover potential nonsense that might show up in the group. So we didn't want to have a situation where somebody posts something really offensive that potentially could get the group banned by Facebook, that sits for hours because there are no admins awake to deal with it.
It would give new meaning to band.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. The reason we actually converted to having the questions to join the group was, I guess it was around 2018, 2019. There was a spate of some really malicious actors on Facebook that would join groups, post pornographic images or other offensive hate speech type images, and then immediately report their own post from another alt account. And all across Facebook, groups were getting banned for this. There's actually one of the people that was doing this was based in Indonesia. I believe he's in Jakarta. And there was a video that some people posted because they found out who he was and went to his home and confronted him about it. And there's a video of that confrontation. That's several years ago. But it went across all the groups, like even I thought Worldwide went completely private for a while. And I think that's one of the reasons why their growth tapered off so heavily, is being completely private.
They're still private.
Yeah,
they're still private.
Being private, people who aren't members can't even see that they exist. Without searching for the name, they can't see the posts or anything. So the choice we made was to stay open where non-members could view it, but to join or the post, they had to answer those 2 little security questions to show that they actually know something about the band and they're not just some random person trying to join the group and do shenanigans. But in any case, to wrap it back around, Peter joined, and it's been crazy ever since, in a good way.
Well, yeah, so you asked me to admin and I refused because I said, I'm afraid I'm going to start because I posted a lot, especially in the beginning. I think I was averaging probably 3 posts a day, I think. And I just felt one of these is going to be completely unacceptable, and you guys will realize that it's all a sham and I'm actually like full of it. So I didn't want to screw things up. So I thought, no. But I think as I was posting and a member and just looking at members, and I thought, man, some of these members suck. They need to be gone. And I just thought I think maybe I can do something. So yeah, so I forget the exact date, but it was like earlier, might have been maybe spring 2019 where I said okay. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's been 4 years, almost 4 years.
Yeah, that is wild.
It says you joined 2 years ago or 4 years ago.
And
you're in
as admin.
Yeah, and you're in here twice.
Oh, right.
There's 2 Peter Lims.
That's right. The reason why there's 2 Peter Lims is my first account was my personal account. And so when I first discovered Band-Maid in May of 2018, I was posting like, I think every day about Band-Maid on my own page. I was like, oh, check out this music, check out this music, check out this band. They're amazing. And then I was getting comments from like my friends and people I knew were like, what's with you and these Japanese maids? So eventually I found myself unable to stop. I found myself just wanting to post constantly. And that's why I joined. And that's why I decided to start a new account that was only for Band-Maid Fans Café and whatever other group I was a part of at that time. So it would keep people from thinking I was insane, even though I still am. I decided to compartmentalize a bit. So, yeah.
I understand, but it's still funny.
Yeah. Okay, so quick question then, Chester. Who invited you to Fans Cafe?
I'm pretty sure it was the person whose name I can't remember, who was the admin who left, who changed the name.
Well, there's Lewis, 2 names. Glidden.
I think it was Lewis Glidden.
Yeah, and there's
Sho Ebata.
Yeah. So it was Lewis.
I think I'm not positive. It's been what, 7 years, going on 8 years now.
Okay. And who invited Scott?
Couldn't even tell you, because at that time it was just as a member, I don't know. It was probably because like Chester said, Worldwide was first and then USA came up and I joined both groups.
Right. I did as well.
And initially I was probably more active in Worldwide, because I think Worldwide was the busier group.
Yeah, they were.
And then there's all these other little small groups. Right now the biggest one is Masters and Princesses, like we all know that. And then there's all of these little smaller ones. There's East Coast, and I know there's a couple of other ones
it's a lot of regional groups, a lot of like Band-Maid Fans Thailand. There's a couple of South American countries that have their own group.
Nordic's another one.
But Nordic,
right. Vietnam has one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. North Korea? No, I don't think North Korea has one.
There's like 5 people that are members, because that's everybody with internet access.
It's Kim Jong-un and his family.
Right.
This is why we love you. You are the comic relief of the admin crew.
Is that a good thing?
Helps keep it from being too dry.
Yeah. Okay, wait, so then let's see. So when you joined, what was the membership of Fans Cafe?
Who, me or
Chester?
Chester?
Remember?
Chester was probably in the sub 100.
Yeah, it was sub 50s when I joined.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. It was definitely below 100. It could have easily been below. Probably not 50 for me. It was like Chester beat me by like 3 or 4 days, and for whatever reason, that's what I'm looking here while we're talking. I don't see actual join dates. It just says join about 7 years ago. It used to have the actual join dates.
Right.
Yeah, I could not even recall what number it was when I joined.
I would think it was
2000, 3000.
I
I don't
would
know.
figure it was somewhere like 3,500 plus because it was around 3,000 when Scott joined.
Okay.
Or as far as an admin, he became an admin around 3,000.
Okay, gotcha. So were you guys part of other Facebook groups before that?
Well, early on, I joined a couple of them that existed early on. Ironically, Band-Maid Fans Thailand was a super early one because that was one of the ones I joined very early on.
I didn't know you
Because
spoke Thai.
I don't. I joined it just to support them, because it was another Facebook group that was trying to develop and create a following. I'm still a member to this day. They still post stuff. I'll click the auto translate button to see what they're saying. They're not super active, but they still exist and they still post several times a month. But at the beginning, I was joining every group that I saw, and but really probably cafe is the only thing that I'm active in, and the only thing I've been active in for years. I still occasionally will reply to posts over on Worldwide. That's about it.
Yeah, I used to post a lot too on Worldwide, and then ended up stopping. It's only Fans Cafe now. Sorry, Scott, you were saying?
I think a lot of us, especially early on, were in other groups with where there's cross pollination. Like for me, I was super active in Japanese music experience.
Yep.
Okay.
It could. Because it's just the broader umbrella of Japanese music, and get exposed to a lot of different bands over there, and then as I found myself being more and more a huge Band-Maid fan, then I started gravitating more this way. I'm not super active in JME anymore, but they're still around, and every once in a while I go and look. Like right now, they've got some Onmyo Za, never even heard of them. Looks interesting. Anyways, they're still pretty active, but once I become an admin here, I spend most of my time over here.
Yeah, definitely. So then, this is for the both of you then. In terms of bands, is Band-Maid your number one?
Currently, yeah.
Has been for a few years.
Yeah.
And your number twos?
Scandal.
Now
this is bands. Like if we're talking artists, Utada Hikaru will always be top. But that's a different genre. That's a different thing entirely. If Utada Hikaru ever played in the United States, I would be there in a heartbeat, and I still kick myself for not going to see her in the Flesh tour about 10 years ago.
So if it was Band-Maid and Utada Hikaru the same night, it would be Utada Hikaru.
Yeah, absolutely, especially since I've never seen her live before.
Gotcha.
She is what got me into Japanese music on or about 2007, 8, give or take.
Were you a Kingdom Hearts fan too?
Absolutely not.
You walk away. Okay.
Absolutely not. It's kind of funny. At the time, I was teaching ballroom dance as a second job.
Oh.
And I needed a music library of stuff to be able to play. And it's really easy to find things that are swings or foxtrots because they're all just, it's a 4/4 rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's easy. Everything, all Western music is that. Occasionally you can find waltzes that are 3/4 time, but trying to find things to be rumbas or sambas or boleros or things like that, they're a little bit more challenging to find. So I was randomly downloading stuff on the internet, looking for any name that didn't sound like John Smith or Bob Farmer, and seeing what the songs sounded like. And Utada Hikaru's, you hit it. It was Sanctuary and
Simple and Clean.
Simple and Clean were the two that came down. And I listened to them, and honestly, I didn't really like them that much when I first heard them, but I had them on an MP3 player that I used when I went running. And after a few months of hearing it over and over again, they really grew on me. So I looked in, it's like, who is this person? And I remember going to YouTube and plugging in her name and being like, holy crap, there's 160 million videos from her. That's how insanely popular she was. So I went on a huge Utada Hikaru binge that lasted years, where I mean, I would listen to hours of her music at a time. And when you do that on YouTube, eventually things start to trickle around and you start getting other suggestions on your suggested videos bar. And Stereo Pony popped up. And I really liked Stereo Pony. I liked their kind of garage rock kind of sound. And that was right after they had disbanded. And I was so disappointed to find out that they had disbanded, like, before I even discovered who they were. And through Stereo Pony, I discovered Scandal. And then, every other Japanese band that I've ever discovered, whether it's Flow or One OK Rock or whatever, all spawned out from that period.
Gotcha. What about you, Scott? What's your number 2 right now?
That's probably gonna be Aldius. It's gonna take a lot to kick them out of number 2 for me, because I've just been in there so long. My gateway drug was Dazzle Vision, and I'll always be a big Dazzle Vision fan. That's one of those ones that it just blew me away the first time I heard it. I was like, wow. And then I just started, like Chester did with Upada, just started digesting as much as I could, which leads to all these other bands that come up. Like, for me, it was, in order, it was Dazzle Vision, Exist Trace, and then it's kind of muddy, but the Destros universe, everything that comes out of that. And then Aldius got in there somewhere, and then I started dabbling in Idol. And
dabbling.
I took a big shine to Sheena Pikanin. And this kind of dovetails into me not really being into Thrill initially, because there's and I can't remember the song right now, but there's a video of her like holding Pikanin's holding a guitar and not playing it. I'm like, this is kind of lame, because I've always been a musician band guy. So to see someone using a guitar as just a prop in a video was kind of a turnoff. Well, here comes Thrill with Miku and her Rickenbacker. I'm like, and I didn't pay it much attention because I felt that was like, what are we doing here? Is this kind of the same thing? But that changed really quick. Real Existence got my attention, but I said this before, but Nonfiction Days was the one that absolutely just hooked me. But it was that whole Band-Maid probably wasn't even in the first 10 bands for me. But yeah, and now there's still, and I don't pay attention to new stuff right now. There's just too much stuff to take in. But then you go out and do dumb crap like you did, Peter, and show me Saiseiga. Best new band I've heard in years. I could talk a whole bunch about them, so much so that you showed me a song, then I found 2 or 3 more, and then by the time I think within 24 hours I bought the whole catalog. I'm just waiting for it to try.
Yeah, I actually tweeted that out to Ryan. I said, you got to check out this band. And I was like, you should probably introduce this band to some of the other guys too. You guys maybe get some material off of it. So yeah, he introduced it to Wave. Wave liked it. And Ryan is actually coming to Japan in June.
Oh, wow.
And I sent him the site for the lives, the schedule. So he's watching Saiseiga in June when he's here. And I'll be watching them in May. I'll be watching them in May and in June. So one of them, it'll be with other bands, and then one is a one man. So yeah.
Are you guys gonna hook up while he's there?
Well, he's in Tokyo, or he will be in Tokyo. So I don't know if that's even possible, unless I decide to actually fly out. That'd be cool.
How long is
Yeah,
he
he's visiting
planning?
his family.
How long is he planning on being in the country?
I believe a couple of weeks.
Damn.
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks. So
Tell him to get the JR pass, then he can come see you in Osaka.
yeah, with his whole family.
Mhm.
Come see Peter. You don't know who he is, but okay. So the interesting thing about you guys is you guys dove in and then you kind of consumed a whole lot of other bands.
Mhm.
But for me, I can pick one band out at a time at certain moments, and that's it. I didn't get into any other bands. So it was Utada Hikaru that I really liked. It was just those two songs I listened to like back in the day.
Mhm.
And then when I was living in Korea, and this is when I was thinking about moving to Japan, I was tired of Korea, and I thought, oh, maybe. So I started watching some anime, listening to some music, and then I actually did get into Stereo Pony a little bit. And then I really, for a moment, got into Scandal. So I was watching all of the videos, and I thought, dang, this girl's pretty cute. Who is who is this Rina Suzuki? And yeah, I was watching like their videos, downloaded their music, and then it stopped.
Mhm.
And then it was what, 2017 when Baby Metal ended up playing for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And I thought, what is this? So then I started checking out their music and I thought, this is pretty good. Downloaded their albums. I was going to watch, I was going back home to the States and I was going to watch their show at the Wiltern, which I think
Mhm.
Scott was at, or yeah,
No,
you
not
were at.
Yeah.
So I was going to go with my friend because I got him hooked onto them too. But by then the tickets were sold out because
oh.
because at that time people were maniacs for Baby Metal.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean they still are. There's still a huge, swath of people who love Baby Metal, regardless of whatever screw ups their management does. So, but anyway. Okay, so yeah, going on with the Band-Maid Fans Café. Personally, because I came in the latest, I'm curious, what were some of the biggest changes that you saw over the years? Like things that kind of stood out.
Hmm. In the group or in or
I mean, yeah, the group and in general, like the fandom, the Band-Maid fandom, but as well as maybe the group, whichever one kind of stands out more.
hmm. One of the issues I think with becoming larger has been potentially questionable member activity. It was just this past year where somebody randomly posted. I didn't get a good enough look at it, but it looked like a image of a topless female with Miku's face photoshopped onto it, and luckily I stumbled across it within a couple of minutes of it being posted, so I wasn't going to sit there and consider the artistic merit of this post in our group, so I just deleted it immediately and blocked the guy. But there hasn't been a lot of things like that, but there have been people that have joined seemingly with the sole intention of starting a fight over something. Scott, do you remember that person a few years ago? I can't remember if it was before or after Peter joined the admin group, or they posted something along the lines of, have you ever had any interactions with the band, like talk to them or something like that? And I made a comment about, just in the, what do you call it? In the meet and greet lines or something along those lines. And every single person that replied, the original poster just made some really like nasty, you're the kind of fan that these people don't like. You're a creeper, blah, blah, blah. Just really just like solicited stories about having spoken to the band. And then every single person that replied to them just went at them. And do you remember, was it you, Scott, that had some back and forth with her?
With her?
It was a woman who posted that. At least the screen name was female. I think I might have. I wonder if I should dig up through my Facebook DM history and find that. Probably not worth it, but every now and again we have some interesting activity.
That doesn't really ring a bell, but if there was back and forth, I was probably involved.
We've been pretty lucky. We have a pretty mature group for the most part. Even our members who are younger have relatively mature behavior. We very, very rarely have any significant confrontation or incitement going on. People are pretty chill for the most part. So I think we've been pretty lucky for the most part.
It has leveled out, I think, more or less the past year and a half, probably more. It's leveled out some. It's kind of like chilled a bit. But there's always that one person that pops in and just
throws a bomb.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to disparage anybody. Let's just say people I was less than enthused to interact with, or basically every time they commented or posted, I felt like I had stepped in like shit. Like they're just people, like every time you read something they write, it's just like, you just stepped in something. But I definitely have my own personal like top 10 people I'm like, no more of you ever. But
it's normal. But I've always tried to keep a very 10 set word time laissez-faire attitude towards the administration of the group. I want to allow people to communicate and to exchange ideas, even if they're at loggerheads to each other, if they can just maintain a degree of decorum and politeness in it.
Yeah, if they can.
We've also tried to not just let the group devolve into posting of images that 90% of the group has seen before because they're from 4 years ago, and then have all the comments just be talking about how cute the picture is. I don't feel like that really brings any value to the group. I've always preferred to have some kind of discussion, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, I'm not expecting a bunch of music PhDs and music history PhDs having dissertations in the comment section, but I would like it if people actually have something to say beyond one-word comments or emojis or things like that. That's just a personal preference of mine.
Yeah, I usually wake up in the morning, and then there's always a lot of times we get it from the visitors, because it'll pop up for post approval, and it will be the emoji of the little hearts for eyes. It's because someone I'm telling you right now, if you post that and it goes to post approval, it's not getting approved.
Right.
It's not.
I think for the most part, I think we try to be pretty understanding and patient with a lot of posts. And I don't know. I mean, how many groups allow that? Well, maybe there are actually a lot, but that allow all these pigeon photos and gorilla photos and just a picture of a banana. So we do let a lot of stuff go. I think we're pretty patient, but I do definitely think that we do definitely try to hold a certain standard of our group and what we want. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's always fun. I think Scott has mentioned it before. He's the hammer of the group. And if anything, he likes to get in there and just we'll be chatting, the admin, and then I'll be like, hey Scott, check this out. just because I know he's gonna like get in there.
I used to call it the band hammer.
An occupational hazard.
But it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. So did you guys ever think Band-Maid would get this big? Did you? Well, because even when you guys started listening to them, I mean,
there's just a huge barrier, both linguistically and culturally, and what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word discrimination, but I can't, like a little prejudicial, especially 15 years ago when I was just getting into Japanese music. One, music not in English just doesn't get popular in the United States. There's a brief flirtation with Latin music at the end of the 90s that went away. Right. Once Ricky Martin and everybody just sang in English. Then there's the whole weird Japan thing, where lots of people who don't really know anything about Japan beyond weird Japan memes on the internet have a lot of predispositions towards Japanese music, where if you say, hey, there's this cool Japanese rock band I like, their first thing they're going to think of is some crazy Visual Kei image that somebody shared on MySpace in 2003.
Okay.
And so I never expected Band-Maid to get as popular in English-speaking countries as they have. And granted, they're not like well known. I mean, they're still far below acts like One OK Rock, but they've come a long way. And to be able to sell 20,000 tickets last year in the United States that's not something I would have expected in 2008. Like, I was shocked when they played the 2 individual shows in California in 2018.
Oh, the Echoplex.
Yeah.
No,
it wasn't the Echoplex. It
wasn't
the Echoplex. It was the Lodge Room.
Lodge Room, right?
Yeah, it was Lodge Room. And then whatever it was in San Francisco, I can't remember the name of the venue.
Chapel.
The Chapel,
or something. Yeah.
You're scary that you remember all this crap.
Me or Chester? Me.
You remember the names.
Oh, doing this.
That doesn't work.
That went over there.
That you remember the freaking chapel. That's what I'm talking about.
I remember as soon as it's reminded.
I remember really random stuff, and I remember people that piss me off, and I remember like there are things that I remember that makes me maybe a good admin, but it's often very pointless and unnecessary and superfluous in reality. So all this stuff is great and it's fun, but when it comes to work, I'll be like, wait, you what? How many times? Can you write that down? Wait, I swear, like at actual work, I have to ask like 3 times. Can you say that one more time? One more time? It's almost as if. But I'm speaking to someone who's speaking English to me. So I don't even have an excuse. It just goes in. Maybe my head is just too full of names and random trivia. So, yeah,
it's funny.
But yeah. So it's cool that I'm curious how other admins are in other groups. I think for the most part, we get along pretty well. We've never had any issues with one another. If any shit's ever been talked about any one of us, I don't know. So
that's a good question, actually. I wonder what goes on
behind the scenes
in other groups, if there's a cohesiveness because you're like-minded people, or it just gets kind of contentious.
Or even how active they are, because I remember when Worldwide was at its peak, they were very, very strict in their administration rules and such. Very, very, very strict.
I remember.
Which was fine. I mean, it's how they wanted to run their group. And they had the rules. The rules were published, and they enforced their rules. But conversely, you have a group like Masters and Princesses, which seems to have not a lot of rules. And as far as I can tell, they don't remove posts. I don't think I've ever seen a post that was there and then wasn't there. So I think we're somewhere in the middle. I think we're probably a little closer to worldwide strictness than Masters and Princesses, kind of wide open.
Right.
I mean, we're definitely more conservative in who we admit. Like, we're pushing 6,400 members, and we'd be over. I'm certain we'd be over 12,000 if we just clicked every yes to every single person that ever asks to come in.
And if that were the case, I would no longer be an admin.
I don't know if I would be. I mean, it's
M&P is by design. I
Yeah.
talked to before I would do any posts on there that would either cross-reference this or bring us back to cafe. Any of that stuff, I would ask permission. I don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to create any problems over there. You know, that's just a respect between groups. And he's like, no, man, it's cool. Go ahead. I think it's just that. It's a very laid back attitude over there, and it works for them, and cool. Because there's people that used to be here that, for any litany of reasons, moved on either voluntarily or
less so,
or involuntarily.
And they seem to flourish over there. Good for them. You know, the more groups that are successful and the more people who can engage, it's just better for them. So, no shade at all.
You know, I was thinking, since, you know, we don't want to keep Peter up all night on a work night. We had talked earlier about, you know, telling some kind of fun stories about our experiences as Band-Maid fans, whether like at concerts or things like that. Would we want to share some of those? Some interesting interactions?
All right. Well, you're the old man here. Why don't you go first? As far as membership goes, you're the old man. I think I got
senpai. Gozo senpai.
Like, one of my favorite stories about the whole Band-Maid experience, and I have a lot of them, but this is kind of one of my funnier ones. The second time I went to Japan, I had tickets to see Band-Maid at Nagoya Diamond Hall. This was in 2018. And I was traveling with my friend Derek, who's not a Band-Maid fan at all. I honestly don't even know what kind of music he likes. He's an anime fan and a manga fan. But we day tripped from Tokyo to Nagoya, specifically for the show, kind of hung out in the city, had dinner and all. We had tickets 181 and 182, I think it was. And Diamond Hall is what, 800 to 1,000?
That I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere 800 to 1,000 capacity. So there's decent tickets, you know, the top quarter. And I was hanging out there, and this gentleman walks up to me and says hi. And it was Mike Barber. And I didn't really know him other than through the Facebook group, but he apparently recognized me from my 10-year-old profile picture.
Is it this one?
It's the same profile picture. That picture was taken in 2003. And he recognized me. He walks up and says, hi. And we start talking. He's like, I've got an extra ticket. A friend of mine who's supposed to come with me, he couldn't come. Would you like it? And I was like, oh, what number do you have? He's like, I got 24 and 25. And I was like, I looked over at my friend Derek, and Derek's like, I don't care. So I took the ticket. So on my very first international Band-Maid show, I was on the rail. And that's good and bad, because I really had to go to the bathroom. And I could not find a restroom anywhere. The Diamond Hall is in like an office area. It's like on the 5th floor of some office building. And I couldn't find a convenience store or anything before the lineup started. So I was like, I'm just going to have to suffer. So I get into the show, get in line, get up there. And the rails at these shows are built for the average height of Japanese people. So the rail was a little bit below the height of my belt. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? So I'm chit-chatting with the people behind me. There was a couple of girls and a girlfriend, boyfriend, and I was in my very rudimentary Japanese, was chit-chatting with them before the show started. And there's a myth about calm, sedate Japanese crowds at shows that a lot of Americans have. It's a myth. It's not a thing. As soon as the intro, Maid's Waltz started, that 800 plus person crowd compressed to about 300 or 400 people worth of space. So I was crushed up against that rail.
And your bladder was just
crushed. And I was like, oh my God. And another crazy thing about that show, 2 people down from me on the rail was Rempo, a big Japanese fan, older gentleman, who I had met the year before at the J-Pop Summit. And he recognized me, reached over and tapped me on the arm. It was like, hey. And I was like, the heck? I met this guy in San Francisco a year ago, and here we are at this concert on the other side of the planet, and we're running into each other again. I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, it's a 2-hour-long show, and we had to catch the last Shinkansen back to Tokyo. And I'm squinched up against the rail. I know there's no way, there's 0 chance of me making my way back out the crowd. So I lean over the rail and I'm like waving at some security guy. And he runs over and he's like looking at me quizzically, and I kind of motioned, like down and under and kind of like hand gesturing, and he kind of waved towards me. So I had to like kind of do the limbo to get underneath the rail because it was really low and really tight. And he ushers me out onto the side, and there's like 4 dudes that are standing around looking at me. And I was like, Shinkansen. And they all went, ah, and didn't say anything, went back to their stations. And I unfortunately missed the last 2 songs of that show because we had to get out and catch the we had to go like 3 or 4 blocks over to the subway station and then get over to the train station to catch the last train back to Tokyo. But we actually got there early enough that I had time to use the restroom before getting on the train. So there was not a tragic horror ending to the story.
Very nice. I've been pretty good. There's been a few times that I've had restroom issues at Band-Maid shows, but usually if you get there early enough, especially with the lineup and all that stuff, everybody around you knows you establish your real estate, you plant yourself there, and once there's people around, you can run and go buy merch, go to the restroom. Yeah. But these are small shows. These are sub 1,000. And to answer your question, Diamond Hall is 1,014. So you were right on.
I knew it was right around there. Yeah, I used to joke. I think at the second LA show at the Echoplex show, I was joking about you get to a point where you have to maintain controlled dehydration. You don't want to, while you're sitting out all day long in the sun, you don't want to not hydrate because you'll just be dead. It'll just be miserable. But if you stay too hydrated, you get in on the VIP section an hour before the show starts, and then the show starts, and you're like, it's a lot of bad day. It's a lot of standing and waiting. So you got to balance this dehydration, hydration kind of thing.
Right. I've got a lot of good stories, to be perfectly honest. I've been fortunate to be at some really cool shows and either orchestrated or taken part in a bunch of cool little things that we've done for the band over the years. The J-Pop Summit is the first time I ever got on a plane for a band. It's the first time I've ever done like an overnight to go see a band, anything similar to that. And that weekend was just a string of cool things. We got there, I think it was Saturday and Sunday was the event, if I remember.
I think so.
So we got in Friday night, and Freddie and I went wandering around just to figure out, okay, this is our hotel. How do we get to where this is? Let's go see where it's at. I'd been to San Francisco, but it'd been a long time and don't really know my way around. So we meander down to the wharf where this is going on. And God, it's probably 9 o'clock at night. It's dark, nothing going on. There's a few people milling around, but we can hear music. So we go down to the wharf, and as we get closer, like, that's Band-Maid doing a sound check. So we walk down there, and we just walked past security like we belong there. And they didn't even look at us. We just walked right on down there. We could have been we could have been looking to do nefarious things, but we walked right down there. We wandered around, and we were trying to be real slick about it. got to kind of peek in on the side and see it. They were sound checking Nonfiction Days. So I looked around a little bit, and we were like, goofy kid shot some little video, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then after that, we went, and there was like a bench out in front. Oh, we'll wave to them when they come out. And so we're sitting on this bench, and they're finishing probably on the bench for a half hour, 45 minutes. And there's this, like a Chevy van, like not a panel van, but the kind with just a bunch of seats for moving people around. And they come out, and at this point, because I had made custom, I do woodwork, I'd made custom pens for each member of the band. And sitting there talking with Freddie, I'm like, should I go back to the hotel and get him? Because I didn't bring him. I thought about bringing him. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to see him. Son of a bitch. So I get the opportunity. So I run back to the hotel, and it was
not that close. It was like a 15-minute walk, if I remember.
It was a little bit. So I fast walked and trotted back. I come back. I'm all tired. I got my pens. We're just waiting for them to come out. They come out. They hop into the van, and I go over there very demurely and respectfully, and I hand them to like the manager or somebody. He gives them out to the girls. I can see that they're using the flashlight on their phone, and they're looking to see what it is. Well, comes time for them to leave, and they go to start the van. The van doesn't start because the van driver had been listening to the stereo or something and drained the damn battery. So they're sitting there with a dead battery. Now I'm running around the wharf looking for someone with jumper cables. And I find this woman. I convince her, hey, can you come over? This van is not starting. Use your cables, jump started the van, and then they went about their. The next day is, they're actually playing on Sunday. So the next day is when we do the meet and greet and all that stuff. Dumb luck, I end up first in line. I got my Misa shirt on. And as I walk in, Miku sees it and points, oh, Misa. So Connie comes over and grabs me physically and makes me stand next to Misa. But when she does that, she trips over the little banner behind and end up catching her so she doesn't fall. Then the next day, and I was on the rail. My first ever Band-Maid show. We got there before it opened up. And the flag. I forgot about the flag, about the U.S. I'm sure people have seen the California flag with all the signatures. J-Pop's on it. That was me. I remember the night before in the hotel, we were up there marking it up, putting what we wanted, and putting the J-Pop's on it, all that stuff. So, and then spent the next 2 days getting it all signed up. But yeah, on the rail for my first Band-Maid show, and I've never not been on the rail for a Band-Maid show still to this day. So whether or not that stays true for the upcoming show on the 10th, we'll see. But that's all I know, and I like it. That's probably my best. That was a long weekend. It was fun.
There's some other funny little kind of cute things that happened during the J-Pop Summit. One of those things where I wish I was more of a cell phone video camera person, where I kind of had it out and videoed stuff all the time. Because at the J-Pop Summit, the Band-Maid ladies were actually kind of running around. They were actually participating and doing a lot of the little event things that they had. I remember as you walked in, like the theme for the event was play, like play and have fun like children. So they had this huge thing right at the entrance of these massive, big inflated rubber balls that were hanging from the ceiling, where you could swing them around, they'd bounce off each other, or you could bounce them off people and stuff like that. And that very first morning, there was hardly anybody there. It was maybe a half an hour after they opened. I'd just come in. I was just kind of looking around. I was up near the stage, and then one after another, the entire Band-Maid group just starts walking out, about maybe 10, 15 feet between each other. I found out later there was apparently a tour group from Japan that was outside that for some reason they were going to say hey to. I'm not sure what was involved with that. But as they're walking by, Akani's the last one, and I can't remember which one, I don't know, it was Miku pushed one of the big rubber balls, and then Misa walks by and she pushes one of the big rubber balls, and then Akani walks by, not paying attention, big rubber ball comes by and goes boop, and just about knocks her on her butt. She's like staggering across, and I was like, I wish I had my camera out. I wish to God I had been videoing that.
All right, Peter, it's your turn before you fall asleep.
I mean, as far as interactions, the only actual like one-on-one or actual like with the girls was when I went to Fukuoka Drum Logos. And I've mentioned this in another video. I think this was with, maybe it was with Mike Barber or somewhere else. But, I was closer to the front. And Mike Barber had actually given me the ticket that was closer up. And they asked, "Oh, are there any foreigners here?" I think that was Saiki. It was like, "Oh, kaigai no hito imasu ka?" And then I was like, LA. And this was after they had come back from LA, where you guys had done the little banana show. And yeah, so I got to talk with Miku a little bit. That was really nice. She was like, "Oh, did you visit us to see the show?" And I was like, "No, I live here." "Oh, you live here." And then Saiki, "Sugoi," and Misa just clapping like in the back, and that was really fun. But as far as like memorable, I would say it was this was right after About Us came out, and this was when Budokan was not going to happen, and they were doing all the online shows, and this is sort of the big, I guess, the big Photoshop event where I grabbed like everybody's name, posted it, designed it. And I mean, the cool thing about that project was it had over 500 names of people. I got consent, like, "May I use your name to put it on this?" And the fact that Miku actually during the live mentioned it, "Oh, we got this, we saw it on Twitter," like all those names, and I'm sure there were other like fans who didn't get to put their names on it. And then she mentioned it again because that was when, if you remember, "Choose Me," the background, like that loop, it got all weird. So when Saiki's supposed to be like, "Ai Kosahane," it was really off, out of sync. So then it was mentioned again. And then when Herman Lee from Dragon Force was going to do the live stream on Twitch with himself, Miku, and Kanami, I had helped him design a little advertising that he used. So I was talking with Herman Lee a little bit back and forth and designing for him. And then on the day of, he posted the image and asked Miku and Kanami if they had seen this. They said, "Oh yeah, we did see it." And they mentioned that it was when About Us had come out, and even though they had made the song for us as a gift, they felt that they had received a gift in return. So for me, it made me realize, my Photoshop isn't such a waste of time sometimes. And it's not really a funny or whatever event. It's the most memorable because even though during the pandemic and a lot of things were shut down, a lot of people were really sort of down. And especially with Band-Maid, I felt really, really bad because they couldn't do Budokan. I was happy to contribute that, and the fact that they did see it and that they did comment on it and that they were happier because of it. It just, when you care about a band that much, the way that I think we do for Band-Maid, and to be able to contribute even a little bit of happiness to them in that direction, I was like, man, this is pretty cool. So yeah. And other than that, it was just nice seeing you guys at the LA show last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was interesting.
We'd only been talking for like 3 years over the internet by that point.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But it was funny because I got out of the car and then I hear, and it was actually you, Chester, like, just, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And I was like, that wasn't the first thing I expected Chester to say to me.
I apologize in advance for my sense of humor.
Oh no, that was fine. But it was all good. Again, I do wish Freddie had been there. It would have been good if he was there, if he was here with us right now, but soon, sometime in the future. Yeah. But yeah, I think this video's gone on for almost an hour now.
Yep, just about.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. So, Scott, do you want to say or sort of wrap up something, kind of lead us towards the end of the road?
I will close us out. So, not exactly sure when this is going to air. Potentially after, in fact, probably after the last Rockstar show. So, if that's the case, by now you saw how cool the birthday present is that we got for Psyche. You guys were amazing. The crowdfunding absolutely crushed. I asked for 300. You guys came hard at a little over $1,500 to the point where I had a hard time spending it all. But hopefully that she likes it. I mean, I'm looking into the future. Hopefully she likes it. And then that's it. We don't have any other announcements for a while. So we will see what happens. And hopefully I expect big things this year. And thank you for watching. So Peter, one last word.
One last word. Well, I mean, how about Chester say something before we close out to the Band-Maid Fans Café group or to the fans in general?
Well, I'm just hoping that at some point later this year that a lot of us will get to meet each other at whatever U.S. or international tours. There's a big group of us that the only time we ever really see each other face to face is waiting in line at these shows. So we're just waiting to see what U.S. shows or other international shows there will be. I'm hoping like everything that I can cross is crossed, that I'll be able to go to the Yokohama Arena show. But the date that it is makes vacation time a little problematic since it's the weekend after Thanksgiving. So that's going to be the kind of the limiting factor. But hopefully a good number of people watching this will get to see at a show or before a show or after a show sometime this year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Masters and Princesses, thank you so much. We are finishing up with January, heading into February and into a whole new world. And I just want to say that Band-Maid Fans Cafe, personally, it really became a home away from home for me. And I definitely found community in the group when I didn't have any or very minimally here in Japan. So I am eternally grateful to Scott and to Chester and to Freddie and for the group itself. And I hope that you guys can also find a good community somewhere. It doesn't have to be with Band-Maid. If it is, it's great. I mean, the Band-Maid fan community is amazing. Not every single person, but that's life. That's anywhere you go. Not all Japanese people are kind and polite and respectful. Most of them are, but there's always going to be a few. So, but yeah, I hope you guys just find your place. Thank you so much. This has been a very fun and interesting conversation, especially since this is my first time seeing Chester after a few months. So it's good to see you again. And Scott, I always see you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
All right. Well, with that, thank you everybody for watching. This has been another episode of Made News Network. Made News Network. I'm tired too. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. And if you're on Facebook, I know not everybody is, follow us on Band-Maid Fans Cafe. We have some really cool conversations there. You get to see some stuff maybe you haven't seen before. So it kind of all goes, good Lord, man. And with that,
you can tell he's from
this has been Chester, Peter, and SJ from Made News Network. God, I can't talk. From Made News Network. Goodbye. Go. Bye. See you later.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys. Bye.